folks. This is the one you've been waiting for. The inside track on how to get your hands on real land. Not a backyard, not a postage stamp. I'm talking acres of wilderness for just a couple $1,000. Doesn't matter where you're from. You don't have to be Canadian, you don't need a special permit. If you're American and you've been dreaming of your own pristine hunting property up here in the north, this is your shot. This ain't residential land, so there's no restrictions stopping you from bidding. And no, this ain't too good to be true. I'll walk you through every step, how we found it, how we checked access, and how you can bid on it yourself. Well folks, today we're setting out on a bit of a different trail. I made arrangements with the folks over at Ontario Tax Sales, and they've kindly allowed me to walk you through the very same process we use to find and purchase our own little patch of land. They've opened the gate, so to speak, giving us access behind the members-only paywall, and I want to give a genuine thank you to ontariotaxsale.ca for that. We all appreciate it. Now, just to be clear, I don't have any business ties with OTS. I'm not getting paid, sponsored, or offered any kind of deal. They simply gave me the access so I could share it with you, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So grab a coffee, settle in, and let's get started. Now to get here, it's real simple. Just head over to your search bar and type in ontariotaxsales.ca, and that'll land you right where you need to be. Now, Ontario Tax Sales was set up to help make the whole tax sale process in Ontario a little more accessible. In my experience, it's a pretty handy tool. You'll see that there are two kinds of listings here. Over on this side, you'll see the featured properties. These are public. Anyone can browse through them. They are tax sales where the municipalities have partnered directly with OTS to list the properties, and they supply info like maps, title info, and all that good stuff. So after this video, I encourage you to go take a look around for yourself. But today we're heading into the members only area. That's what I'll be showing you in this walkthrough, so let's dive in. As you know, here on the Off-Grid Engineering channel, we're all about remote access acreages, the kind of land where the road ends and the real work begins. So I've been poking around and I thought we'd zero in on some tax sales happening soon in northwestern Ontario, specifically the township of Dawson. Alright, get ready, because if you thought I was blowing smoke in those other videos when I was talking about dirt cheap land, well, this one's going to stop you in your tracks. First property on the list, Blue Road 2 in Dawson, 41 acres. And just look at it. Right on a maintained road, easy access, you could roll up with a pickup truck tomorrow and start setting up camp. There's open ground out in front, perfect for a cabin, garden, or whatever you're dreaming up, and a nice bit of woodlot tucked in behind. I mean, come on, you could build a beautiful little homestead here. And here's the kicker, the minimum tender is only $1,900. If no one else bids, that's it, 41 acres for under $2,000. Keep watching because later in the video I'll show you proof. Past sales really did go through at just $2,000. Let the dreaming begin. Next acreage up for tender, another 40 acres. Right off the bat, I can tell this one's mostly shrubs and muskeg, classic moose country. And if there's access, even just a trail skirting over some crown land, which I suspect there is, you could be looking at your own moose hunting paradise. And the minimum tender? Just $1,400. I mean, if you're a hunter, why wouldn't you go for this? A backwoods hideaway like that, you could set up a blind, maybe a little camp, and have it all to yourself come fall. Now I'll walk you through in a minute how to evaluate the land and set a bid, but for this kind of lot, truthfully, I'd probably just drop the minimum bid. Chances are you'll get it. Alright, next one on the list. And right away you can see this land's been logged in the last few years. I'll show you in a bit how to check that out for yourself, but logging like this is actually a good sign. It usually means that there's a trail system in place and that the ground is solid enough for equipment, not just swamp. I'd put money on it. Probably 3/4 of this land is firm earth with that back corner dipping down into lowland. When you're looking at these acreages, there's a few things you really want to keep an eye out for. First, does it look like high ground, like this, or is it mostly lowland and swamp? Then check for trails or roads nearby. Using my method for reviewing a property, you'll be able to figure out pretty quick whether the land is landlocked or there's a way in and out. Sometimes you get lucky and it's surrounded by crown land, which means you can ride or hike your way in no problem. And of course, look for water access, like this one here. A little lakefront or riverbank can go a long way, especially if you're dreaming of a canoe-in camp or off-grid getaway. Alright, we're going to dive deep into this acreage right here, 77 acres. Now I punch that into the calculator. 1,470 divided by 77 acres is just over $19 an acre. Think about that for a second. That's cheaper than firewood. This is the kind of land that makes people say, there's no way that's real. But here it is, and we're going to take a closer look to see what kind of potential it's got. Here we get a close-up look at the land, and it's looking pretty good. Looks like a healthy tree cover and some interesting features right here in the center. Maybe a ridge or a clearing. Now OTS gives us the parcel details right here, which is really handy because it means we can look up this property elsewhere. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that in a minute. One thing to pay attention to is the assessed value. That's what you'll be paying property tax on each year. And I expect this property to be about a couple $100. Now these land descriptions can take a bit of decoding, especially if you've never dealt with old township surveys before, and there's a few different types. But this one here, I usually read it like this: west half of south half of lot 8 concession 4, Spawn Township. Sounds like a mouthful, but it's just a way of narrowing down the exact chunk of land, first by lot and concession, and then slicing it up into halves and quarters. Now the property identification number or PIN is also key. The first half of the PIN usually gets us into the general area, enough to pull it up on mapping tools, which I'll show you how to do next. From this map we can see the property is about a mile from the maintained road. But take a look here, there's an easement shown for a road cutting through the bush. That's a good sign. Could be an old logging route or access road that gives you legal right of way. Now if we zoom out, what we're really after is a better sense of the general area, nearby lots, concessions, and landmarks, so we can track it down more easily in OnLand. Alright, I'm just going to open up a tab here and head over to onland.ca. That's Ontario's official land record site. Now once we're in, we'll select the applicable land registry office. In this case it's Rainy River. That's the one listed on OTS for Dawson Township, so we know we're in the right jurisdiction. From here we can start searching by PIN, concession, and lot, or even just by zooming in on the map if we've already got the area scoped out. I'm going to search by map here, and to get my bearings I'm looking at Google Maps on the side. You can see Highway 600 running through here. That's our anchor point. Now what we're looking for is just across from this jog in the road over here. Now back in OnLand we can see the exact spot, so let's zoom in. Alright, the PIN starts with 56059, and sure enough, that matches what we've got on the listing. It says lot 8, concession 4, and that's this lot right here. Finally, it says west half of south half, so that gives us our quarter of the lot. This chunk right here. So the first thing we're looking for in OnLand is Crown Land, and that shows up as these white sections just north of the property. It's marked as unpatented land, which means it's public, government owned, and you're allowed to travel through it, hunt, fish, explore, all without trespassing. So if you bought this lot, you could keep going north past your property line, maybe even set up a little hunting stand or do some scouting up there. It also gives you options for building a trail or accessing the land from different angles if needed. But in this case that's probably not necessary, because we can see there's actually a decent road running right in, which is awesome. We can confirm that on Google Maps too, a real road, not just a dotted line, so access here is solid. Well, the next step is putting in a bid. But how much should we bid? Part of that comes down to the value it has to you, but part of it is also thinking about the value to others, because you want to outbid the competition. And this is where being a member of Ontario Tax Sale really comes in handy. Up at the top, click on Tax Sale Results, and then go to Sales by Municipality. It might take a moment to load, so be patient, and then scroll down and select Dawson. Here we can see the last tax sale in Dawson was in 2019. If we scan through, you'll notice there are 2 acreages that are very similar to the one we're looking at now. And this is the kind of info that helps you make a smart bid. It's also proof that cheap land is absolutely possible through tax sales. Someone picked up waterfront land for $5,000. And these 2 acreages, they both sold for just $2,000, and there were only 4 tenders submitted. Let's click into one of those and get the details. Okay, turns out it was 40 acres of land bought for a song. And if you're curious about what that kind of property is worth on the open market, just try Googling recreational land in Dawson and see what comes up. That's how you get perspective, and that's how you make informed bids. I ran a couple quick searches for hardware and lumber, and it looks like we're only about 20 minutes out. Not bad at all. It's a small town just over the border, but hey, when you're living out here, having supplies that close is a real win. You could grab some fence posts, fuel up, maybe even hit the diner on the way back to camp. Off-grid engineering isn't about living like it's the 1800s off in the woods with a wood axe and a cast iron pan. It's about beating the system, because let's face it, for most folks these days, owning a home feels out of reach. We're about building a future where you can retire in comfort, with no mortgage, no overhead, and the freedom to enjoy your golden years on your own land. This channel is about our journey in that direction. But since there's been a lot of interest, we thought we'd drop this little how-to and show you that yes, cheap land is real. Don't worry, in the next video we'll be back in the bush struggling like usual. If you want to bid on one of these acreages out in Dawson or keep your eyes peeled for future deals, head on over to taxsales.ca, hit the How to Buy tab, and do a little digging. You'll see it's not that hard to make a bid. So again, a genuine thank you to Ontario Tax Sales for letting us take you behind the curtain into the members only section, and finally show folks what cheap land for the masses really looks like. Stay tuned, next video drops soon. We're finally caught up and back in real time, clearing land, swinging axes, and laying down the first bones of the cabin. No more flashbacks, just honest work, bush sounds, and the next chapter unfolding one cut at a time.